Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Weekly Profit Talk, where every single week we talk a little bit about how to make your private physician practices more profitable. Among the many topics that we discuss on this weekly program that we do is how taxes affect your bottom line. And we're going to circle around and talk about that a little bit today. Topic is how the big, beautiful bill affects private physicians. Now, if you're not paying attention to the news, and if you're not, I don't blame you. It's got a pretty deep bias one way or the other, and a lot of people just basically opt out. But the one big beautiful bill is actually the name of a piece of congressional legislation that has made its way through the House by a 215 to 214 vote, is now currently under Senate debate, and it's got some things that we should talk about. A lot of it is, as I've been saying since the beginning of the year, or maybe even during the campaign last year, that the people that are in power currently are basically the same sort of folks that were in power when the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 were passed. And we could probably see some sort of a continuation of the reforms that were put into place. Most notably is the increase in the standard deduction, the elimination of personal exemptions, and they basically attempted to make up for those two things with qualified business income deduction, as well as increase in child tax credits. But the whole thing kind of feels like a shell game to some people. So let me go over some of the changes that I believe could possibly affect private physician practices. And I'm going to go ahead and bring this up here real quick. Excuse me while I do that. Very good. Thank you. So first thing, now that there are deep Medicaid cuts, and there is a discussion that it's possibly going to take millions of people off of health insurance. I'm not going to touch on that specifically. One thing is it's still under Senate debate, and the others, I'd like to focus directly on the sort of things that actually will affect you, my private physician. So the Medicare Economic Index is basically going to be a guidance for the way Medicare payments are calculated, but you're only going to see 10% of the inflationary increases on your side. So one of the things that I saw someplace, a good allegory is if inflation is a speeding train, your payment increases are basically like riding a bicycle alongside of it. So it may be difficult to keep up with the actual inflationary increases relative to the way you are reimbursed. We're going to keep an eye on this certainly, and share more news about it as it comes along, as it goes along, excuse me. So direct primary care and health savings accounts. Now, health savings accounts hinge around a high deductible health plans, or HDHPs. I see these anywhere from 2,500 to 5,000 or more in deductible. Direct primary care will actually be allowed under HDHPs for specific arrangements, which could affect your patient's experience. So that might have some potential positives. Moving on from that, sorry, I jumped too fast. Now, I discussed this earlier. Section 199A, there was a domestic production deduction in the code prior to 2018. Section 199 with the letter A on the end of it actually morphed into the qualified business income deduction. This is the small business person, including many of my flow-through private practices. People that run LLCs and are taxed like an S corporation is a very good example. You do enjoy a qualified business income deduction provided that your income qualified. Now, what that means is you note SSTB here. That's a specialized service. Oh gosh, I don't remember what it stands for. But it's basically trader business, specialized service trader business. There are 7 or 8 categories there. Musicians are among them, doctors, architects, and we accountants as well. Um, what happens is there's a phase in and a phase out to where you no longer receive the qualified business income deduction based on adjusted gross income, but that is generally around. If you're married filing joint, it's going to be somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000. So this affects many of our practices. Where despite the fact that you may be $1 million or $2 million practice, you're actually taxed significantly lower after overhead. So this bears paying attention to. The House bill currently has increased that QBID from 20 to 23%. That's potentially good news, provided that you do, in fact, make the phase out. In other words, if your income is below the phase out amounts. So that's worth keeping an eye on as well. And I want to add to that this is under Senate debate, and they are going to be discussing this probably well into July. The powers that be are stomping up and down, wanting a result by July 4th, but they don't always get what they want, and people argue about things. And I could go into more about what my interpretation of what I'm hearing on the news is, but basically, there are some concerns. I'm going to go off script here a little bit for a second, but there are some concerns with the resulting increase in the national debt that will result from the passing of this bill. So there are some people on both sides of the aisle that are actually seriously considering this. So a good thing to keep in mind. The SALT limit. Let's go ahead and move on. So there's a state and local tax deduction that you're able to take on Schedule A, assuming that you can itemize deductions. The standard deduction for married filing joint this year, 2025, is going to be $30,000. That will go up every year because it is adjusted for inflation, and we have lived in inflationary times since probably before World War I, honestly. So the standard deduction was $29,200 last year, has gone up to $30,000 this year. If you have more than $30,000 in itemized deductions, you are able to take itemized deductions as opposed to standard. That has been difficult, and a large reason is because the SALT tax deduction was limited to $10,000 by the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. They are actually discussing increasing that to $40,000. That can be an actual significant help to people. So we'll keep an eye on that and see where that goes. Plant property and equipment. This is a classification in accounting that's basically also known as fixed assets. And that is basically something that you own that you have for over a year. So liquid assets are money, one click, current assets. But if you have, I don't know, let's say an x-ray machine at your practice or some other high-cost piece of diagnostic equipment, bonus depreciation has been reducing by 20% each year. They put a stall on that during the 2 COVID years, but currently we are at 40%. If this passes the way they have it written, 100% depreciation, bonus depreciation, subject to certain qualifications, will make a return. And it looks like it's going to stick around without graduation until 2030. So that's another thing to keep an eye on. Depreciation options are actually helpful to my practices that I help, because it gives you options on how to approach your tax position this year and in future years. The typical piece of diagnostic equipment, as well as computer equipment, that sort of thing, generally has a 5-year life. You can choose to take all or some of that if this passes and your income qualified for it. All at once. But then, of course, keep in mind that means you have depreciated the item down to zero and you can't take it in future years. This could help some practices, though, that find that they're having a sudden upswing and their taxable income is going to be beyond the point where it's supportable by tax liability. It could be helpful. So A little bit of bad news, student loans. There are new restrictions in the bill that can make it harder for new doctors to afford practicing in underserved areas. Um, Loan forgiveness options, which have been discussed in Washington for many years, are not looking like they're going to make it past the chopping block either. So, for those of you with student loans, and I going to imagine that's going to be the majority of the people I'm talking to. A continued effort toward paying that down in other more traditional ways is probably going to be in your future. So let's keep that in mind. And I'm hopeful that this little bit of information I was able to share with you was helpful, and I am going to continue to keep an eye on this. I don't want to jump up and down about politics every week, and I certainly try to keep that out of the day-to-day processes of my practice. But what these people do in Congress affects the IRS, and the IRS affects us. So it's worth keeping an eye on. So stay tuned every week. We do this at 8:30 in the morning in Mountain Time. That is 7:30 on the West Coast, 10:30 on the East Coast, and 9:30 in the Heartland, Chicago, etc. So we'll be back next week with more helpful information on how to keep your bottom line as healthy as possible, your taxes as low as possible, and put more cash in your practice. So if you have any questions or are interested in learning more about how we work with people, we are on 3 different media here: Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And all 3 of those have a comment section. Write something like help or more info. We'll see it within 24 business hours and we'll get back to you. So with that, I hope you're having an amazing day so far. Looking forward to a great weekend, and summer's coming soon. Hopefully, I don't know about where you are, but we've had several gloomy days of rain, but it never lasts. So anyway, we hope you have an amazing rest of the week. And if you have a chance today, do something randomly kind for a stranger. So until next week, we'll see you, and so long for now.